should probably start with a classic riff, me disparaging you. Maybe that's always fertile ground.
Why would you? Yeah, what? Why? What? For what reason?
How's
what
that-
new source do you have?
How's the male pattern baldness going? Well, I know you were really struggling with that in the last.
I'm actually, the doctors say I'm so virile that it's actually unhealthy. And I'm growing so much hair now that it's probably life-threatening.
And this is a doctor with a medical degree.
With a degree in what
like
you
a
would
medical
call
doctor.
a degree in what you would call alternative medicine. Yes.
He's a naturopath for sure.
He's measured my qui energy. And I am particularly potent in several masculine aspects, I'll have you know.
Do you bathe in CBD oil?
I not only utilize God's oil every day, but I also insist that my friends and relatives do the same, and random people I meet on the subway.
That does sound like what somebody who uses CBD oil regularly would say.
I know, it's the perfect bluff, right? It's
more like CBT oil, you know what I'm saying?
Shut the fuck up.
Please no. For this
fuck.
podcast to proceed without any unnecessary CBT references. Thank you.
What is CBT? No, I'm serious. What is that? I don't know.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to 30-Minute Worlds.
I'm going to Google it here. You can continue the intro.
Welcome to 30-Minute Worlds. This is a podcast where we make worlds in 30 minutes, ostensibly for some sort of RPG splat book, I guess. I do have some good news and bad news, guys. The good news is that we don't have to turn all of these into splat books. We actually don't have to turn any of them into splat books.
Yeah, wizards would not return our calls.
Never acknowledged
that is
our
the
email.
bad news. Yeah, the bad news is that I never actually was talking to wizards.
Which
I was
means
lying
that
to y'all.
Which means that the thousands of dollars we poured into art for these unique settings has been for nothing as we were preparing the splat books for a wizard's release. But that's cool, you know.
Yeah, my press agent actually reached out to Paizo about Frog Quest, and they banned me from ever communicating with the company ever again. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I was talking to the Dragon Quest people about making a game based on Frog Quest, and let's just say I'm not allowed back in Japan. So that's
you know,
okay.
It's fine that we spent all this money, and you know, I'm cool obviously with you doing it. I coincidentally now live in a homeless shelter though. Just as a turn,
okay.
I'm recording in a public library here.
it's funny how compared to episode 1 where you were living in a house and now you're homeless, the audio quality is so much better than it was.
Yeah,
it's because no one's there.
I might have to sell
one's
this
the
mic
only one.
for food. So
He broke into the library actually because libraries aren't open right now. I don't know what he's doing.
Fuck.
How did he?
I didn't think of that. Also, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. Is that it?
No, it
Fuck,
isn't.
what is it?
No, it's fine. It's totally fine. So, we are going to do, despite the fact that Wizards is not going to be buying our IPs, which is, regrettable, we are going to, let's just run him down.
Oh my
Let's just run him down.
god.
Yeah, okay, he found it.
You're welcome for that.
Okay. So I think we can start. Oh wow. I just never thought to acronym it, you know.
Yeah, nobody looked that up, by the way. Just please don't look it up.
It's fine. So I think we'll start off with the first world we ever penned. Shroom World. Shroomlands.
Shroomlands, yeah.
How do y'all feel about a revisit of Shroomlands?
When I went back and listened to it, I was surprised. I really liked Shroomlands. That was it was our first toss of the bones, and we weren't actually throwing any bones at the time, but it was really fun. I could hear that I was having fun in the recording.
It was a good setting. Yeah, I liked it a lot. We went very in depth with it. More in depth
I have
than we
always
have.
said, yeah.
We've never planned out locales really again, apart from Shroomlands. We planned out 3 different cities
And I really like that we fleshed out. Now, admittedly, we have, as was previously discussed, walked away a bit from the focus on an RPG splat book or even like a video game or anything like that. But I like that we fleshed out like a starting town like area.
Yeah,
and stuff like that. Like we just never really continued with that.
Mm-hmm.
I did really like Shroomlands. The thing about it is a little bit, it's very JRPG, right? Like you can sort of imagine, start like the whole mushroom enemy and you're on the side of light or something.
Yeah, and the hash is an inventory item that you can use in the middle of a battle.
Yeah, I really like. I'm down to revisit Shroomlands. It's got a lot of fertile potential, I think, for us to revisit. I don't really have a comment on it though.
No comment, huh? You don't have any comments on your world that you are the champion of originally?
I was the champion of Shroomlands?
You were the lore lad.
Yeah, the original.
Oh, I was the OLL.
You were also the creator of Cobb's Knob.
That's true. Although I stole that from Kingdom of Loathing.
I thought it was
Really?
Hobbs Knob, but okay.
Okay.
Oh, I
well,
did.
So we
then
can't.
yeah, it's original. It's original. We keep it in.
You change the name.
Okay.
We cannot be sued for that. You can't do it to us.
Yeah, exactly.
Is the only thing so the thing about doing a revisit is you'd have to have some idea of what we would want to revisit.
I want to revisit the individual city states, I think, in Mushroom World. I think Belvin talked about this too.
Yeah, that's kind of how we closed that
Belvin
episode.
was weirdly into that fuck city. And I think that would be kind of a cool environment to flesh out more.
Yeah, also into slaves, but
that's a recurring theme.
Moving on to Bridge of the Gods, episode 2. What did we feel about Bridge of the Gods, gentlemen?
I think that was the most grounded, I guess, setting probably that we've come up with so far.
Yeah?
Not that that's necessarily a positive or a negative judgment, but it is definitely the least fantastical, I guess.
Well, there's no magic in it. Yeah, that's actually kind of what I liked about it. I think episode 9, which, as the time of recording, this has not come out yet, but I think episode 9 is more grounded in traditional. I think that's more of our most traditionalist episode. We can talk about why that is. I think episode 2 is pretty unique in the conception of the world.
Well, and I like that we talked so much about culture and about the people and about how they live their lives day to day. Thought that was nice. Like, it didn't feel like they just existed to just be like, oh, we need to have people here that do stuff.
Right. No, I really liked it.
But just when you were saying something.
There was something that, for some reason, I'm just not that into the setting. I don't really know why.
Yeah, because you were kind of like, when we were going longer, you didn't think there was a lot of depth we could pull out of it left, I think.
And I still kind of think we didn't really go anywhere after that point. But I mean, I didn't think it was as bad as I did. I was just having a bad day. The thing that I'm not really that excited about the setting is that it is essentially just like it is essentially Snowpiercer. It's just like the same, like everyone's just on a big line. And like, I don't know where they get all of their resources from, right? Like we
touched on salvage, but there's not a lot of wood around. You're right.
It's the thing, like if your entire society is like bunched up in a line, like no matter how long that line is.
Oh, that's
like,
true. The center would be but that would be something to explore too. The center would have the least access to anything.
No. It's if they have to go out, because if they continue to like fish at the bridge, they are going to eventually overfish, because there's just and they're going to salvage. They're just going to have to start going further and further out to salvage. It just doesn't seem to me. And also there's the problem with, like what we said, is that boats weren't common. So like if boats aren't common, and it's hard to like. There's so many. Like you could probably go into that and try to
Yeah, I
figure
think
out.
we kind of like changed that so that it'd be convenient in some instances to have boats and some instances to not have them.
My understanding was that boats were not necessarily uncommon, but were just very valuable where they were had, that they were a prized thing, but that but if it's not, if it is common, then how is it valuable? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's very useful, but that is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
I just have trouble wrapping my head around that.
Uh-huh.
That's a fair criticism.
No, certainly. If these worlds aren't ironclad, how are we gonna get people? Now, moving on to Frog Quest.
This is the most grounded of all settings in 30-minute world history. Nobody was under the influence of any kind of hallucinogenic drugs while we were doing this, and that is amazing to me.
I will say, in the defense of Frog Quest, I didn't like it at first, but then I had like a few actual listeners reach out to me and tell me they really liked Frog Quest. So I think it would be something that our fan base would like a revisit of, and it did pose kind of a neat philosophical question. And I think it was kind of one of our most experimental episodes that we originally did.
The question, of course, being, is it better to be a frog or a human?
Yeah, which no one's asked before, I think.
No one has ever asked this question. Not a Disney movie, not a poet from like, I don't know, medieval era Japan. I don't know what the eras are called in Japan. Or was low P low?
It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, whatever.
I think at the time I really did not like it very much because I was still more in the mindset of that we're writing things that people could theoretically play games in, because I think the first 2 episodes were very much like that, and I didn't really understand the direction that we were taking it. But I do like it for what it is. It is different.
We talked about the game elements of Frog Quest in the episode. About your frog points, certain actions you could take. I think that'd be something that we could touch on in a revisit that could make it something like Mouse Guard, but with a sanity system. That in and of itself is kind of a neat pitch.
Yeah, it's weird because I really think if we were going to revisit Frog Quest, it is the world that we would actually literally be able to make an entire one-page RPG
I think it is
Mm-hmm.
like one of the easier ones to adapt, actually. When you look at the system of Mouse Guard, which is where combat is kind of like, if you're not fighting something that's of your own equivalent size, it's incredibly lethal and dangerous. And you introduce like a sanity mechanic where you're losing your former memories. I think that would be pretty neat.
You know what would marry to that pretty closely is a drinking game.
That might be, well, the prompt, yeah, you have to.
We could make
liquor
an optional. Yeah, like an optional rule that you have to take a shot every time you get.
It ruins the integrity of the setting.
As an additional cost to spend a frog point, you must drink some hard liquor.
Does anyone have any closing thoughts about Frog Quest?
Yeah, actually, the last 3. Is anybody like?
Not really I mean, there's stuff that we can talk about, but not like that would be something to discuss in like a proper revisit, I think.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing too.
I mean, it's hard to.
Yeah.
Daniel, you had a worst prompt. You said that. I guess we'll mention that.
Don't worry, it's coming.
I don't really have any closing thoughts on Frog Quest. It was actually more cool than I gave it credit for at the time, and we did get a lot of people actually who liked it, which was cool. Moving on to episode 4, which I think was like my second turn as Lore Lad.
It was.
Yeah. Plane of Elemental Goodfellas. This is a hard maybe for me.
Maybe, really?
Yeah, I feel like this setting was a little too wackadoo for me to sustain creatively over another session.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, because like there's
like
so much
where
food
we started with Goodfellas is not at all where we ended up with Goodfellas. Like we started with like, criminals are basically infernals, and we ended up with there is an entire set of planes of existence that exist basically as stereotypes of different movie genres.
Which I kind of actually liked, but I feel like incorporating paintings as summoning was like hard to work with. I think within that, and kind of didn't fit with the theme of the three kind of planes that we had. And when you combine those together, it was kind of like a setting that was like, and we also had to deal with the influx of technology into what was a standard fantasy setting. So that was like
I really don't think
horny big things to tackle there.
I mean, the problem with the influx of technology, I don't think that would be a problem, because everything that everyone you're bringing in isn't like a scientist or an engineer.
Yeah,
they're like they're a cop or a gangster or something. They're like fighting men. They're not like, telephone repairman or something. Or maybe one of them was, and that's how they got the telephone.
If I have a problem with Goodfellas, is that it felt like it was trying to do a whole lot of different things at once.
Yeah, I agree with you there. And we were
stuff that was neat, like the 80s cop plane, which is funny, and it is funny, but it didn't really it didn't get any kind of actual development. It felt like to me.
It was like a plane that we wrote in the 80s. While on
that's the thing. That's exactly what you need in a revisit. Is something that you didn't develop enough. So you want to just open it up and enjoy that beautiful like Ferrero Rocher present you just unwrapped.
I will say, in a revisit to Plane of Elemental Goodfellas, I will say in defense of it, and this will be my parting thought on it, and you guys can add in if you want, it would be the revisit that could probably change the revisit with probably the most what am I even trying to say here? It'd be the revisit with the most cash value, I think, for us, because it could really like, in terms of like making the setting like even crazier. I think it has the longest reach potentially of any revisit. We could take it a lot further. Of any of the worlds.
It essentially is a hub world. It's introducing into this the idea of like, this is a world that you could pull people from any setting, essentially, if you kept extending it out.
You could, yeah.
I really think the all you really need to make I really think all you really need to make any of these really good settings is just fleshing out a handful of really good characters, like that are each part of the setting. And I think it's so easy with this, because all you do is you've got like a few, like, like a wizard, like sorcerer or whatever, and then you've got like a mafioso and a like the exemplar characters that they've got in like the core rule books and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I would agree with that in my kind of thoughts, is that one of the things that bothered me a little bit was that I really struggled to wrap my head around at all what this would look like from the ground level, like as a to be a person.
Yeah, that was me too. I was kind of like, because I feel like a problem with that setting too is all the cool stuff is happening outside the setting. All the cool stuff is happening on 80s cop world.
Is it though? Because I can't even really imagine what that world is like.
Yeah,
it's like
I can't imagine it either.
It's like imagining hell. It's like made of fire, and like if everything's made of fire, is anything hot?
Yeah,
it's weird. So
the only
probably move on.
Yeah, the only thought I would have is that like if it were to be touched on again, the other planes would probably be where a lot of our attention would go, I would assume.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, I got everything I have to say about it out of the way.
Yeah, I think there's potential with a war between the planes that could be staged on the neutral ground. You could like try to avert that. I think that would be kind of a cool plot. But what about True Cuts?
I love True Cuts.
I fucking I
love this one.
This is a really good one.
This might be my favorite, honestly. I really liked True Cuts. It was so fun.
I loved making this one. Chessman, you were Lore Lad, right?
I was.
Yeah.
You were. And it was really this is such a good one. This is probably I would say this is a number 2 pick for me. I would say number 1 or number 2.
The thing that if like we, because I was listening back to it, and like my problems that I have with the setting are essentially just like we had competing ideas that we never really resolved, and that's it.
Such as,
Like oh gosh,
Like the number of alien species in the setting and the nature of the
well,
growth.
we agreed on
Like,
multiple. We agreed on multiple at the end there.
yeah, but like we don't really know what they're like if they're coming. And then also we sort of mentioned at the end that there was that that they've colonized like asteroids and Mars and shit. And
Yeah.
but we didn't go into any of that, which is a great food for a revisit, to dive back into that.
Yeah,
like
fuck,
to
dude.
touch on that, I think it was kind of like we were not debating but discussing like the details of the setting in broad strokes, to the point that by the time we settled on what we wanted it to be, we couldn't go into any detail really.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And we never did actually nail down we never did actually nail down the nature of the training. Like this whole thing is this whole setting is about
yeah, the
barbers
Bene
in training.
Gesserit barbers who
Yeah.
can fucking
Mhm.
read your hair's mind and cut it. I think that'd be cool
yeah.
to focus in on and see how they do it. We did kind of skirt around that. I think we kind of hit kind of at the last part of that episode, from what I remember. We kind of hit on an intriguing kind of space Hulk prospect where their job is also to explore derelict ships, which I think is cool. And check for growth there, or explore far out space stations and see if people have bad hair there, which I think is funny.
I just think that like what you're saying, dialing in on the hair stylists or barbers would really be what I would want to do if we went back to
Yeah,
it.
I
I'm
would
talking
do
about
that
what
too.
they
Yeah.
do and what their lives are like, and because they are the protagonists of this setting, basically.
Yeah.
And
No,
we really didn't dial in on like what it was like for them too much, I don't think.
this is a strong contender for a revisit, I would say.
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
And it was also one where I don't even know if we actually got 3 prompts for this. I think it was just space station and hair, because I
It was.
re-listened to it. But it was one of our best ones. It was so good.
Because I had an invisible third prompt that was in
You
my
were
head.
the guiding hand.
The third prompt was Junji Ito, I believe.
Yeah, because Walt kept saying Junji Ito over and over again.
I
Yeah,
said it
that's
like
actually my
twice.
mantra. I say it when I fall asleep.
I don't recommend that.
My dreams are terrible, actually.
Yeah.
It's all about
Well, I
putty.
mean, I liked that. A big inspiration for that. I don't know if you were just bullshitting this or what, but like the dream that you had, Walt.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, this wasn't bullshit. This is a real dream.
I was listening. That dream that gave me chills. I actually kind of already want to move on now because I don't want to talk about this dream anymore.
It's like-
Yeah, no. The only closing thought I have is that this would be a fun one to go back to.
I would. Chessman, your closing thought?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
It's one word. It's yeah.
Moving to number 6, which is Sea of Time. I'm gonna go to bat here for Sea of Time.
Okay.
I really
right.
liked it. I think it has the most potential for a revisit as a neat
Really?
setting. Yes, I think it does, and I think we kind of got bogged down in talking about the structure of the clock and whether the world was flat or not, and angles and shit. And that's not really important when you consider the bare bones of the setting, and when you consider that, like, the idea of, like, everything outside of the clock being outside of the radius of calculable time is really intriguing to me.
I think that the things that are interesting potentially about Sea of Time are things that we did not spend much time talking about.
Exactly, and that's why I'm kind of hankering for a revisit of that. But I think hair between the two of them, I think True Cuts would take it from me.
We'll pit them against each other at the end. Don't you worry.
Oh, good. What do y'all think of Sea of Time?
It just felt really unstructured, and like the longer it went on, the less focus it felt like we had for what the fuck was going on. I like the aesthetic. I like the idea of this sea dominated by this great clock, and it's like Mediterranean, like early classical era, and it's a neat idea. But I just don't know that we have put enough details into how anything works that we can really really had much there. I thought it was a weaker one in retrospect.
It has there's a lot the like literal world, the literal world is you could maybe there is some stuff that you could find in there, but I really don't think we were close while we were doing it. We would have to like go pretty deep to find something on a revisit.
See, I disagree, but I think that I could sense I'm the only one advocating for this one here, but I think that it's because we didn't touch on so many of the cool. I think we spent too much time talking about like what happens when the clock stops and stuff, and not just what's their society like, kind of like how we did with Bridge of the Gods.
Yeah.
I think we should, on a revisit, if we did it, we should Bridge of the Gods it and really make it so we understand how these people live, essentially, because I think that would be really neat. It's also, Sea of Time is like one of the only universes we have that's congruous with another setting and could potentially fit in the same world.
Oh, wait, which one?
Bridge of the Gods. They could both feasibly be set in the same setting incredibly easily. And I think that would be kind of neat, too, to talk about the potential for that.
Oh, God. Oh, my God. No, see, that's... Oh, gosh. Yeah, because... Okay, you just turned my world flipped upside down.
See? Because that...
Because if they are both in the same world, suddenly it does all make sense to me now. It's like why, like, okay, first of all, the bridge, clearly the bridge is circular. It runs around. It's like it goes
hemispherical. Yeah. You're saying,
hemisphere. So you actually can't see the other side of the bridge from any part of the bridge, and the path is so long that you can't really make out that there's much of a curve to it because it's just gently curving.
Ooh, shit.
Yeah.
That does fucking work.
Yeah.
But we can't, oh my God, we can't do this right now.
Yeah, unfortunately.
You thought it was a lock, you bastards.
Well, okay. So, I guess Sea of Time and Bridge of the Gods might team up,
and it's a setting. Bridge of the Gods, we've already established there are megalithic structures in the setting that we don't know why they're there.
Slots in.
It's almost perfectly. And I don't even know if we touched on that in the episode because I haven't listened to Sea of Time in a while. But I think they slot in pretty well. And if we take the rules of the sun for Sea of Time, where there's no sunset essentially, and it's just daytime all around, and there's no way to tell time really if you're outside the clock's radius, that impacts the bridge in really interesting ways.
There is a lot to do with it, but we are maybe getting ahead of ourselves.
We got a can of worms this discussion. Got a can of worms, unfortunately. Closing thoughts?
That's my pitch for it. That was my closing thought.
That was your closing? Yeah, I don't really.
Yeah.
We already said me and mine too.
Yeah.
So before we move on, I do just want to have because it is kind of funny that we keep going through all of these, and the thing that it seems like almost every single one, the thing that we need more out of it is that we're focusing too much on the rocks and grass and trees, and not enough on like the people living there. Right?
Yeah, I think this is my particularly big complaint with Sea of Time too. Is if you listen to that episode, we spent like 15 minutes talking about the physics of the world,
right?
Which I think is not something that's going to make someone play the setting.
Well, and if the physics of the world, we aren't even explaining how it affects the people in the world. What difference does it make? Like, it just doesn't matter.
Yeah. It's just a really poorly written science fiction novel where you get halfway through it and you're like, it's really cool that you got a hard on for engineering, but why?
Yeah. We're back after a brief break to talk about what we just did, fucking Sea of Time.
Yeah, we're continuing our very special episode of 30-minute world builders.
And we're now moving on to Mongolian wood.
No, the full title is actually Mongolian wood, and in parentheses, this con has flown.
Well, I assume our listeners can also read. Maybe I'm alone in assuming that.
Well, this is a podcast.
But
they're listening. They might not be able to read. You don't fucking know that.
It's actually true.
And in this instance, I get to say, fuck you for picking car radio as a prompt word.
Yeah, for real.
The worst prompt word probably in the history to date of 30-minute world builders. If not, certainly in the top 3 is car radio.
You don't have a top 3. You can't name 2 more.
Well, funk from the as of unreleased episode was a bad word, but ended up being useful.
It was useful.
Yeah.
Whereas car radio, I don't know. I mean, the rock jokes were kind of funny, but it mostly just confused me.
Yeah, it did define the setting to an unhealthy degree, I think.
Just radio would have been good. I can't believe you were going to do car phone. I still can't believe it. It is wild.
That would have been much funnier, I think, in the setting.
It would have been even worse to incorporate.
Yes.
We would have just done like
1980s dissolving fucking what was the other word? Whistles.
We would have just done Plane of Elemental Goodfellas. We would have just done the loose cannon cop world. That's all that would have been. There's no other world you can do from car phone.
We definitely did fall kind of ass backwards into what this one ended up being.
Yeah, I have no idea how I think we mentioned this on an episode.
You said as a joke for the setting Mongolia after because I complained about doing Mad Max in Australia.
I thought like a step car kingdom would be cool, and it was cool. I just thought it was gonna be post-apoc for like. Mm-hmm. I thought post-apocalyptic Mongolia with cars would be badass.
Yeah. Well, so Belvin said
be a better setting.
Mad Max, and then I complained about it having to be in Australia if it was Mad Max. And then we got to Mongolia, and then we're just like, well, let's just do it. Let's do something different. It doesn't have to be post-apocalyptic.
That's true. And then we created actually a setting that has a lot of beautiful, shining parts to it. Who can forget? Yeah, who can forget the classic? Well, you want to talk about CBT? This fucking episode.
Like it wouldn't be a 30-minute world builder episode without genital mutilation coming up.
All right.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So, yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm just blocking with my voice so that we do not continue talking about that subject.
Yeah.
I don't really have a lot of thoughts for
listeners.
This. It was a weird one.
Check that off your bingo cards. It was an odd one. I'm not suggesting it for a revisit because I think it was so. This one is even more out there than the mobster world.
Yeah, it's just a one-off. Like that. I mean,
it was funny. Yeah, it's.
Yeah, my closing thought: it would be cool to send cars back to, historical Mongolia.
Dude, it would be
give
cool.
Them to cons.
It would be objectively the right thing to do for humanity. It would be great. Obviously, it'd be cool. Yeah, I think
it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever.
I think that we explained that all away with Chinese alchemy. Was the Chinese alchemy? Just don't worry about the rest.
Well, because what I was sort of pushing it to was that this is now a racing setting, and that there's inexplicable like it's like those games like in the arcade, like the driving games. Where you're driving through places where you're like, there should not be a road here. Like this doesn't make any sense.
Like the pyramids, you just drive through them.
Yeah. or like like they do places that look very similar to like Mongolia, and you're driving past like all the wildlife and stuff, and like you go through a waterfall and there's and you're like Shangri-La.
This is protected land. Why am I?
This is wildly illegal.
I think I don't have any parting thoughts on Mongolian wood. It was certainly wacky.
Wacky with a sort of destroyed civilization undertone. Like next time we should just give the Mongols nuclear weapons instead. I think that would be faster.
Yeah.
Well,
Moving on to episode 8, Green Hell.
Mm-hmm.
What did y'all feel about Green Hell?
I don't really know how I would revisit it, but I did like the episode a lot. It felt very strong to me. And it's like probably the most, well, I don't know, either the Mongolian war is the most adjacent to like our own world that we're living in today of anything that we've done.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about these, or I'm going to end up talking about the last two together a little bit because they are weirdly similar. The Green Hell and also this. In mind, I have a note here that says that we're calling it not the Matrix. I do not think that is what we're calling it. The most recent.
We don't decide the episode names on air, but yeah, our most recent episode.
They are both like these apocalypses that they're both essentially apocalypses of isolation that you're going into and basically essentially being punished for destroying the environment. Both of them.
Yeah, they are actually. Of the two, if you want to lump them together like that, and I think it'd be helpful to compare them, I think Green Hell has less legs than the other, because the other one, there's a mystery there as to why things are this way.
Well, and there's more variety and there's more action on like of whoever the protagonists are.
Yeah, you have godlike agency actually, whereas in Green Hell you're deprived of all agency over your surroundings and you're just a tool to be oppressed and tortured.
Well, but Green Hell would be a great kung fu movie.
Would it?
You'd like fight your way and you get lost.
Dude, I would love to see Donnie Yen just punch a fucking bird.
Oh no, this is super low budget. All of the animals are just people in animal suits.
Yeah, but they just somehow booked Donnie Yen.
I know I've thrown a huge wrench into the works right now.
This is all because
reeling from how fantastic my idea is.
Walt insisted on pagodas being a central feature.
I said Kami, which I had Kami on the brain that day. I don't know really why, but
Well, Kami, the spirit of the planet. It's great. We don't have a life stream in our world, so we do have to,
I mean, who's to say that we don't, man?
I guess we don't.
Are you fucking...
The aesthetic certainly works.
Yeah, I do like the aesthetic.
Kung Fu is definitely not what my mind would have jumped to immediately for film adaptation.
I was like, that's kind of weird.
Kind of a miracle any film producer signed off on an adaptation of any of our works, so I would happily accept a Kung Fu movie.
No, I think, again, going back to kind of cutting ahead here to the revisit, I think the one that has the most potential is True Cuts.
Oh,
True Cuts is an anime.
But an anime film, you could make that easily.
That's the next step. We gotta I don't think we have that much more to say about Green Hell. Let's just
It's also kind of recent in my mind.
I liked it for what it was. I thought it was cool. It's more of a set piece than like a setting in some ways, but yes, I did like it.
All right, so we will now move on to episode 9, as of yet unnamed, but it's out on iTunes right now if you look at it.
It has a name there. It's not the Matrix.
Yes.
Is what it is.
It's TBD.
Yeah.
But find out who wins in the title wars there. No,
TBD without the TB.
This kind of set the tone for the whole episode.
Fuck yeah.
There's one riff at the beginning.
I liked this one, and I think it's the one that's most adjacent to our reality in the sense that we already have a conception of something like this happening. In our pop culture.
I can say that I was the lore lad for this one, and definitely what's going on right now with the quarantine was weighing on my mind when we were working on this one. And I had just written something else earlier that week about all of this, and it just kind of infected that a little bit. But I liked it. I thought it was interesting. I thought that you guys did a great job of extrapolating something really cool from it.
I really liked
Yeah.
it, and I think there's more to kind of how I feel with Sea of Time. Is I feel like it's one of those settings where there's a lot more there that we could touch on. The nature of the Eureka boxes, the nature of the engineers. Uh, I don't know. There was just so much cool stuff in there. That what the angels were really trying to do. Uh, I don't. It was just neat. It was neat.
Yeah, I really it's I between this one and Green Hell, it really is a much better isolation like story. Like, and it was also like a much more relevant like like the eventual destruction of the planet by global warming is, of course, it's always an issue, but the current separation of everyone is much more pressing. I do like this idea that like these angels are going in between worlds. It kind of gets me thinking about like there's there's like this show, I can't remember what it's called. It's like it feels like it's directed by M. Night Shyamalan. It's like this, like everybody goes to this town or something, and the town's really in the future.
You're talking about The Village.
The Village.
You just spoiled The Village, by the way.
The movie
Did
is
I?
like 15 years old. Get
Aren't they
over it.
making a show about it?
No, I'm talking about a different show. I think
A show or a movie?
it's not called The Village. You just spoiled The Village.
Fuck you.
It was a
It's like-
group effort.
It's like 15 years old, all right? Can we get over it?
Speaking of 15 years old, I guess we're gonna take a little bit of a break to organize ourselves for
But
the
speaking
final
of-
showdown.
Yeah. So let's take a
does
break.
anybody have any?
I don't have any
last-
parting thoughts on Green Hell.
Or we're we're already on the next one, but
Anyway, yeah, we'll cut that. No, I don't.
No, I'm happy with what we've said so far.
all right. So we're gonna take a little break, and we're gonna come back with the roster, and it's gonna be fight night.
Welcome back. So we had narrowed it down, gentlemen, to 2 worlds.
Well, oh no,
Sort of.
who's that coming through the? Oh my God!
It's Bridge of the Gods with a steel chair.
Bridge of the Gods. This is unprecedented. This is unprecedented in 30-minute world SummerSlam history. We have a 3-man match. 2v1 for the final
My God, that Sea of Times music.
Oh my God. I am a real man. Okay. So it is True Cuts versus Bridge of the Gods and Sea of Time.
As a combined setting, which we've established makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense.
Chessman, your move.
I am so torn. I'm so torn because True Cuts is so good. And it's such, we know it's gonna, because like
Mhm.
I've been thinking on and off about like who leads the barbers, who's teaching the barbers, who are all those wacky high schoolers learning to cut hair and also fight I guess a godlike hair entity. But and like Bridge of the Gods and Sea of Time, kind of an unknown. They're like a new like it's just this new thing, and individually they didn't really work. So like I'm worried about
I
like
think
we
they
put them
worked,
together.
but
Well,
I don't think they had the spark that say we immediately felt with True Cuts.
It's an unknown entity. What
Yes,
the
that's the
Sea
thing.
of the God Bridge is gonna look like, or the Bridge of Time is gonna look like. But fuck, I would like to see it though.
it's
Yeah,
almost
yeah. That might just be something we could do for the problem. And I know I merged the two of them and threw the wrench in, and I'm responsible for this cage match. I think the problem with that merging, though, is we would have twice as much ground to cover on a revisit, even though it would be a really intriguing world.
The thing is, though, they had less than half as much ground to cover to start with. So when you combine them,
So yeah,
it is about the same amount of ground.
I think we would just need to count on it being a little bit longer than our average episode, but I mean, it would. I don't think it would need to take 4, 5, maybe probably a little bit longer. I mean, like maybe 10 minutes, 5 for each. But you know, because we can pick and choose.
You're saying numbers. You're saying numbers to me, and
that's fair.
Like Bridge of the Gods is on the top ropes. Okay, so okay.
I didn't hear a call though, Justman. I didn't hear vote.
A call?
A vote. I didn't hear a vote.
Are we gonna vote?
That's what I assumed. Because I think everyone was about to say the same thing in 3 different ways.
Whew. Okay, so let's just on 3. Let's just say which one. And let's go from there. How about that?
Yeah, I can do that.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
True Cuts.
True.
Wait, where's?
I was gonna say True Cuts too. I kind of cut out there.
As much as I love the idea of marrying those settings, and I do love the idea, there's just too much about True Cuts that I want to flesh out and see more of. It's too fucking cool.
True Cuts was the like flash in the pan, like, oh shit, we got something there that's really good.
And like Walt's dream, like it came to him in a dream, and there's
the messianic
there's the prophecy to think about, you know, that one day one podcast will unite the world to fight the growth, and just a lot to talk about there.
Yeah. Whereas Sea of Time and I'm sorry, y'all's audio kind of cut out there, but whereas Sea of Time and the other Bridge of the Gods setting would work, they're like natural fits for each other. I think that it is somewhat. We would be essentially like solving a bunch of little vagaries with the setting to make something that we consider True Cuts cool now, you know?
Yeah. I just put away, I'm sorry if that came through in the audio. I did just etch True Cuts in stone as the thing that we're revisiting.
No, I know. I heard that part.
However,
I chimed in too.
However, I do want to say that like there's a lot of good stuff that we still want to see. We're still interested in like in a few of these, like Bridge of the Gods and Sea of Time. Also some more like some other ones that we just didn't make the cut. They didn't make the true cut.
Yeah, we kind of had an honorable mention list here. Where we put Shroomlands and Frog Quest both as honorable mentions. Shroomlands because it was our first and it was actually a really well-developed world. I know if Belvin were here for this episode, Shroomlands might have been the one that we revisited.
Yeah. We also have a slightly less honorable mentions list that is basically all the other ones, except for like except for like I guess Green. I don't know.
Mongolian Roadcon was what it sounded like, but it would also be nice to revisit Shroomlands with not shit audio quality, although that might be a barrier to entry for some of our viewers, since we did tell everyone to start at episode 5. But I like Shroomlands. I think it's cool.
I think Shroomlands is cool too. I liked the dichotomy between mushrooms, crystals, and that kind of thing. I like that we built out some fluff settings. So I think it's up to us now to establish kind of what a revisit to True Cuts would look like.
And that looks like we're at time, guys.
Yeah, exactly. We need another episode.
Sorry to leave you on the edge of your seats. See us in season 2.
I seriously, like, I've been rolling it over in my head so much. I still am so much. I knew that we would have to get to this point where we narrow